Week 2, and we are diving into our first real paper. So, but shoot, I don't want to talk about English stuff. I'm hungry. It's lunchtime. I'd really rather talk about spaghetti and spaghetti sauce. Do you know how to make spaghetti sauce? I mean, maybe you do. A few of you do. Some of you think of it like I used to think of it as just magic. You know, wow, how could you make something like that? It's really pretty easy. You take a pan, basically a frying pan will work. Put a little bit of olive oil in it. You take some garlic and you mince it up real fine. And you put it in the pan with the olive oil, and maybe you do some onions minced up real finely, and you could put some peppers in there if you want to, and some people put carrots and celery and stuff, but very finely minced veggies, and you put them in, and then you saute them. See, that would intimidate me right there, but that basically just means you start the heat and you let them start to brown a little bit and soften up. Okay, that's easy. Then you take tomatoes, and you can either take actual tomatoes and cut them and mash them up and just get them fairly fine, as fine as you want them, which is for me really fine because I don't like chunks of tomatoes. I'm lazy. I take a big can of tomatoes and I dump them in the pan, and I let those cook for a while, and then they all mix together, and all that the garlic and the onion and stuff, it gets in there and it all mixes together and makes it real good. And then I may put some oregano or some minced up parsley or something like that, some herbs and stuff in there, and I just let it cook for a while, and it reduces. See, there's another one of those words that you go, oh, it just means you let it cook, and some of the water is going to cook out of it. Okay? And when you get done, it's ready. It doesn't take very long. It's not very hard. But for me, it used to look like magic. Now, this week and next week, I'd like us to look at a different process, the writing process. And it's not magic, but you know what? It is really much more complicated than pretty much any cooking process that you could imagine, because it involves so many things at the same time. You've got sort of linguistic things with making the words work right, using the right words, and the grammar and punctuation and all that stuff. You've got thought processes going on. You've got just the work itself, the physical stuff of sitting at a keyboard and typing or writing with your hand. You've got the logic of it. You've got the appealing to the audience part of it. You've got a whole lot of different things, and you've got to do them all at pretty much the same time, or at least keep them in mind as you go through the various steps. So what I want us to do in this 2-week period is encourage you to look more closely at the writing process you actually use and evaluate it and say, here's what works for me, here's what doesn't work for me. Okay? It's a 2-week span. I don't care. You could do it all in week 3. You could do it all this week. It doesn't really matter. We're going to take a look here at the individual elements. Okay? Okay. Let's get to it. Okay, you should have already gotten into the declarative rhetoric, which is weeks 2 and 3 section here. If you haven't, I don't know how you're watching this video. But here we are in D2L. You'll see declarative rhetoric week 2 and 3. I guess it should say weeks 2 and 3. Maybe I'll change that. Now you got a few things in here that you're not going to see, like this published thing. That's on my screen. But let's just look at what we've got. First of all, the Declaration tells us a little bit about the Declaration of Independence, and we get a link to the Declaration of Independence, and you're thrilled. Brief overview of how the Declaration of Independence was written. It'll take you about 5 minutes to read. The whole idea here is I want you to realize that the Declaration of Independence is a remarkable document, but it did not come about when Thomas Jefferson just sat down and said, hey, I think I'll write a Declaration of Independence. It was a collaborative process. It was something that he thought over actually for years. Some of the stuff came from way back in the past. And so your writing process is, at its best, going to be a collaborative process. It's going to be something that draws on the past. It's not, at its best, going to be something that happens the night before papers do. Here, we're going to look at looking at your writing process. I'm going to give you some thoughts about ways to consider that, and what you might, kind of questions to ask yourself and that sort of thing. That's the biggest part of the reading here. at least the reading that I've got online. Then we've got this process quiz. You'll take the process quiz. Most of the questions there are drawn right out of here. And that's where, well, I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Then it says week 2 reading. Now this is a chunk, okay? There are three chapters here from your textbook. From Inquiry to Academic Writing. That's the name of the textbook. I'm not going to quiz you on them or anything like that, but this will pay off, so don't skip over it. As usual, you can skip over the examples that are in there, either student examples or the professionally written ones that are in blue boxes. You can skip over those unless I tell you otherwise. But please do read the instructional materials. I think you'll find it useful. And this is where I'd hope you'd be at the end of next week, week 2. Okay? Then we go into this paper. Okay? This is my writing process reflection, so an example paper. And then here's the assignment. You can see, write an essay of 500 to 750 words in which you spend some time reflecting on and evaluating your own writing process. So read over this, think about it, and do your best to knock this thing out. 500 to 750 words, not real long. That's 2 to 3 pages, or actually just a little over 3 pages if you're in Times Roman. And I just hope you'll do it. You shouldn't spend a huge amount of time on it, but do try to do your best and not make it just something that you dash off. Okay, this is graded, and there are all sorts of grades available, including things like D's and F's. So please don't take this real lightly. But this will probably be the quickest paper we write all semester long. Finally, down here, you've got a little bit more reading. It's just one more chapter, and don't do that until you get done with the paper. I mean, unless you just find yourself like on an airplane or something and you want to read something, because this is a looking ahead piece of reading. Again, you don't have anything you're responsible for on it except the content, and we'll use that going forward. It's really good stuff. It's only about 10 pages or so. All right, very good. Let's move on.